Calling it an electrifying festival, the US Ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, held a press conference here at Hotel Vivor in Kohima. He said that it is one of the best cultural fests that he has ever been to, and this is going to be the first of many visits that he will be having here in Nagaland. And he also said that during the press conference that he wants to help Nagaland and build Nagaland into an inclusive society over here. Speaking on various other aspects and topics, taking questions from the media from Dimapur and Kohima, he spoke extensively on the plans that the US have in regard to the relationship with Nagaland. Let's have a look at the press conference.
Okay, well, I'll just say a few things to start. This has been a remarkable trip. I've fallen in love with Nagaland, and my first trip to the Northeast shows the vibrancy of the culture, of the people, and I've had amazing interactions here. Hornbill Festival was probably the best cultural festival I've ever been to in my life. And I've never said that to any other place or before. It genuinely was electrifying. It was so well done. It was something that reminded me that across India, the more you know about India, the more you know you don't know. And I look forward to returning here again, not just to see the culture, but to see where we as the United States mission can be helpful in the dreams and the aspirations of the Naga people, connecting to education, economic opportunity, to cultural exchange, with sports, health. I started yesterday with World AIDS Day and had a wonderful interaction with young people, health officials, nonprofit and government officials who really are warriors in the fight to eradicate AIDS and HIV and to help people who live with HIV to have good and great lives. I heard from young people, some of whom were born HIV positive, about their dreams and hopes, and some of the work that we have done through our USAID and our Centers for Disease Control to help models like the bike program that sends health officials into the most remote areas of Nagaland on motorcycles, and also the work that we can do to help Nagaland have an inclusive society. That evening I met with members of the Baptist Church who are doing incredible work throughout Nagaland, and the importance of the faith-based community, whether it's for women who have been trafficked or have been in tough situations, who are now being trained by the church and helped out to get out of lives of violence and dead ends to a place of a lot of hope, and listening to the role that the church plays in the lives of the Naga people. And then Hornbill was the next day, and I've got to say, I was very honored to be one of the special guests. I felt an immediate connection, and we're so excited to bring American Native tribes here next weekend. Native Pride you'll see how the connections between our dances and our clothes, between our people and your people, really are a bridge between the United States and India and the United States and Nagaland. And then today I saw a number of other things, the War Memorial, to understand the history here, to lay a wreath to the fallen, but also then to spend some time in a village and to see the rice paddies, the rural living, the forts, the way that most Naga people live outside of cities. And then finally this evening we went to Bloom Bazaar, which we sampled amazing food, saw some of the handicrafts, made some of our Christmas purchases, and hopefully reinvested some good money in the Naga economy. But I promise Nagaland, this will not be my first and only visit. This will be the first of, I hope, multiple visits here to really engage, to listen to the leaders. I want to thank the Chief Minister for being a great host, and the engagement I had with both government officials and everyday folks here in Naga. So with that, I'll open up to any questions. You know, there's a lot of areas, and I see that infrastructure is so important for the economy and the success of Nagaland. I heard that from entrepreneurs. I heard that from the government. And so, you know, the United States wants to be a partner for both physical and human infrastructure. Human infrastructure like job skills and training. We heard people talk about agriculture, hospitality, and tourism. So certainly we want to be a voice to bring more tourists here from America and from everywhere in the world. But we also are looking at ways that if Nagaland wants to help build out its infrastructure, the United States can be a very good partner to that, whether it's learning how to get good contracts that are the best way to procure or get businesses to invest, or potentially even American businesses that could come here and invest when that infrastructure is built. I heard from the Chief Minister's aspirations for hydropower, connectivity, technology. So I think it was in this room just a few hours ago, I was with a group of 3 women entrepreneurs, and they were saying how the textiles, for instance, made in Nagaland are in some of the most expensive stores in America, and the United States is the #1 destination. But right now, that's made from one house to the next in very remote rural villages. So what might be able to be the next step of bringing some American women in the fashion industry and connecting them together to learn how you take it from piecemeal approach to maybe small factories that would help elevate the Nagaland brand, because the craftsmanship we saw is as good as anything in the world, maybe even better than most parts of the world, but the most of the world doesn't know about it yet. So I think textiles, agribusiness, maybe infrastructure, hospitality, tourism would be the areas that we can try to focus on. Absolutely, there are strong people-to-people ties. In fact, I come from Southern California, where a lot of Nagas live, and we were visiting with one resident of the village that we went to today, and he had gone on an exchange program that the United States government sponsored for learning. This is something that we have journalists and sports leaders and health leaders and different business people go to learn about America and to travel across America. He had just returned this summer, right?
Yep.
And he went to San Diego, which is close to Los Angeles in Southern California. And he had seen the Naga community. He said, I was eating Naga food in America. I was talking, with my Naga brothers and sisters. So I do want to strengthen that. I know that those connections are there, but I don't think that they're formal at all. So when I return to California for home leave, in the future, one of the things I'll do is reach out and see if there are leaders in the Naga community, because I think they're the natural Americans who can come here and invest, connect, promote, and help the future of Nagaland be very bright. Sure. When I was a young man, I worked on the other side of Myanmar, by the Thai border, with some of the tribal communities, the Karen, Kachin, Shan. And I remember meeting the first Nagas there, because some of them were working with other groups on the eastern border of Myanmar with Thailand. And when I became ambassador, I wanted to come to the Northeast, because many people said that, the rest of the world ignores the Northeast, even though it's a very important part of India. And so I wanted to make a priority to come here. So I got the invitation to the Hornbill Festival, and I said, I don't care what else we do in my schedule, but make sure that I'm going here and we can build things around this. So after that, for instance, I met with the Chief Minister in Arunachal Pradesh, who wanted to open up a new museum. So just before coming here, I said, I'll be coming to Nagaland. And we went there to open up the new Hump Museum, which is about the hump, which was the area that Allied planes flew into China to help in World War II. Then I came down here, and I wanted to make sure I didn't just see a festival, as excited as I was to see it. And I'd seen pictures, I had talked to people, our Consul General in Kolkata. Let me finish the one thought, and then I'll get. So I wanted to make sure I didn't just come to the festival. I really think that as ambassador, I want to listen. So this was the first one, was really a learning and a listening tour. I didn't want to come in here with the ideas. I wanted to ask Nagaland residents, what do you need? And how can America help, working with the Indian government and the state government to achieve that? So this was a educational experience, but more importantly, it was a time to listen and to hear. And I heard loud and clear that this is a moment of calm, of relative peace, of, the days are long gone when people said, don't travel to Nagaland. It's the opposite now. Everybody wants to come here. Indians want to come here. I talked to many Indians on the plane who are here who said, I've always wanted to come to Hornbill. I've always wanted to see. And they're staying for 1 week, 2 weeks. But vice versa, I also know this is a time when people are much more hopeful that they can find, that comes on second, hopeful about maybe a better economic. It's funny you say that because the criticism we usually have from other friends, other nations, is you're being too strong. You need to engage with this government. And I can't imagine a stronger stance than what the United States has taken in Myanmar, which is not only to cut off relations, but to also put sanctions, economic sanctions, and to punish businesses that continue to do business and banks that continue to do business with a regime that has killed its own people. So I think we've had a very strong line. We've used our economic and our political tools. There may be other suggestions that people have, and I think our government is very open, but we've led a coalition of like-minded other countries that also have said this behavior is unacceptable. When people shoot at, bomb their own citizens, we will not keep diplomatic relations until they hold elections. When they ignore the democracy, we will have consequences. So you can count on us to continue to do that. I know sometimes people think that America is so powerful we can just change the world overnight, but we know that that's something that the people of Myanmar and Burma have to do for themselves, but we are supportive of democracy, we are supportive of human rights, we're supportive of the ethnic diversity, and I think we have been as strong as any country in the world. Other countries will continue to do business with a regime that clearly violates human rights and has killed their own citizens, and the United States will not. I'm proud to lead a mission which is engaged 360, well, I should do the math if it's 7 days, 358 other days a year. We love coming here for Hornbill, and Hornbill is kind of the gateway to understanding Naga culture, Nagaland. But we're engaged throughout the year. Just in this room, we had, I think about 14, maybe 15 people who have been, to your point, on, exchanges. And journalists are eligible for these exchanges, so we can follow up and let you all know. But we have a visiting fellows program. We have Fulbright scholarships. And so 3 of them were women entrepreneurs. One was a sports professional who leads the Nagaland Olympics. Another 3 or 4 were involved with AIDS and HIV work. There was a healthcare worker. There are people from diverse communities, LGBTQ community. So we stay engaged. We launched a new initiative we're very proud of, which is called An American Shelf with St. Xavier's College, where we're now going to be providing books throughout the year to help a school here and maybe future schools that don't have access to the sort of books that are some of the best in the world, that we can share our culture with you. And today when we listened, I challenged them, tell me where you see other places that America can help. We defer, of course, to the state government and national government first. We're outsiders and guests, but we do have resources. For instance, the Centers for Disease Control of the United States have worked with the Indian and Nagaland health authorities to create new models, not just for Nagaland, but for all of India, and that we're using in other parts of the world. Grassroots primary health programs that can help people if they're coming in because they have diabetes, they are asked about their mental health. Or if they're coming in for heart disease, they're asked about whether or not they may be at risk for HIV, connecting these pieces. So I want everybody in Nagaland to know, you might see us more during the festival, but we're not waiting for any festival. And when you see me next, I hope I come back next year for the festival too, but next time you'll see me, it won't just be during a festival. It'll be really, that's something we love celebrating with the Naga people, but we know probably after everyone leaves, everyone asks here, do you still remember us? We do, every single day, every week. And our consulate in Kolkata, which is responsible for this region, is working on that every single day. Well, from Dimapur to here, I was very impressed with the initial infrastructure, and I know how much work has gone and changed in the last 10 years to have that road really link the capital and the economic capital, if you will. That was very impressive to me. It wasn't just a smooth road, it was a really high end. I've seen a lot of roads in my life. I've been on the bumpiest roads in the world, and I've been on the best highways in America, and it was right up there at the top. The topography, twists and twists. If you're not looking straight ahead, you're definitely going to get car sick. The pineapple impressed me. We stopped, and I had a pineapple. I talked to a couple women who were in one of the fruit stalls, and and obviously what's impressed the most is just this ability to show such diverse culture. 17 tribes at once come together, and walking around, I did probably most of my Christmas shopping at the festival at one time. The challenge is, Oh, I'll say one other thing. I was impressed by the beauty, and we went today to Konama. But what's the Nagaland for Konama before the Brits? No, what was it? Fonale, Fonale, Fonale. Con- Fonora, Fonora. So to see the way that the small town lives, to me was incredibly impressive. To see the way the clans have such a sense of unity, then the village has a sense of unity, and the way the rice paddies and the land are shared. And it's a very impressive village. It's the first green village in Asia, and I'm a big environmentalist. The crop rotation, the intelligence that's used to let some of the jungle come back in, to preserve the animals that are now there. To me, that was very, very notable. The challenges are, I think, the challenges that we face in any place where you're trying to seek investment. That the nice road ends, it gets bumpy, it's tough. I can't even imagine in monsoon season what it's like. And then hearing from leaders here in Nagaland saying that was only an hour and a half away from here. Try going 18 hours to a remote place in a single day. I was talking to the Joint Secretary today that was at Bloom Bazaar, and he traveled. He said in certain districts it would be an 18-hour drive that day just to get within the district from one end to the other. That's an immense challenge. And so I leave here thinking, what can we do to be helpful? How can we get together with the Indian government, the Japanese government, others who are starting to invest in the Northeast? And I think you've seen more investment in the Northeast than maybe in the last 10 years than you've seen than 20 or 30 before that. But there's still a lot left to do. I mean, obviously, Nagaland's struggling with something that we struggle in the United States with, which is mental health, drug use, some of the health conditions that come with that, like HIV positivity, which is at a higher level here than other parts. It's one of the reasons we're so involved here. It's second only to Manipur in terms of the percentage infection rate, which is why when we have limited resources, but PEPFAR, which is the president's program for dealing with HIV and AIDS around the world, when we could only choose a few parts of the country, this was a priority area. And we're united by good things, the people that are in Southern California who are Naga and now part of America, but we're also united by bad things, a pandemic, things that ignore borders, drugs, disease, the environmental degradation. And so those, I think, are common challenges of how do we make sure, for instance, you need more power here. We experienced that tonight. How do you do that in a way that's green, that isn't just more coal or gas or oil? How can you use either hydropower or solar power? I think these are some of the challenges, because if you do have economic success, it will come at a cost sometimes to the environment. I think the other challenge too is making sure that women and girls have opportunities, and in particular heard some of the challenges around children that are HIV positive who are orphans, and how, like for instance, Kohima, I think there's 206, and right now there's no programs for them, partially because we're partnered with the state government in India on this, but we are in 4 other places and not here. So it makes me think about how I can go back and maybe work with the Indian government and see, can we take some of these programs to help these children? We all know that if you ignore a child, that child will never achieve her dreams, and even worse, may themselves challenged with drug addiction, jail time, criminal activity, and other things. And so investing when people are young, I think, is a real challenge now. Yes, I mean, luckily we start with a very strong foundation, so we don't have to start from scratch. We already are working on disease control, on increasing, as we saw in the 4 districts where we are, going from, I think, 40% to 91% people now taking the drug daily to suppress the HIV that they have. The bike program that I mentioned, and then helping train. One of the things that I heard very loud and clear in this room was people said, don't just give us direct assistance, help us train trainers. Because one day we need to be self-sufficient. Maybe one day you won't have it in your budget. Maybe one day it'll be a tough moment for India. But communities, and this was the message yesterday, let communities lead. And they said, communities will lead, but we need the tools, we need the lessons. So I leave here thinking about what can we do to do more training, not just service provision. And maybe there are some people who have gone through this around the world, other parts of India that we've worked with, who can come in here and train health professionals who aren't working on HIV and AIDS to be HIV/AIDS warriors as well, because I think that's the only way we'll eliminate it.
I think we have time for one.
Oh yeah, we can give you the schedule of the number of times we're here when it's not the festival. I think the festival is when we have our attention. Maybe sometimes that's when you see us, but sometimes we're here and you don't even see us because we're doing the work.
But it's good
But-
that through this festival,
Yeah,
people has brought
yeah, of
closer
course,
to us.
yeah. I mean, look, the Northeast is so rich, so diverse. There's 7, if you count Sikkim, 8 states, part of West Bengal, 9 states really in the Northeast. And the population of the country, of all of India, there's many demands to get to all of those places too. But I think America is very committed to working together with the Indian government in all parts of India and wherever we're asked, in whatever ways we're asked. We won't come here and tell people what to do. We will come here and listen. But I do think that in health, economic development, environmental action, these are the 3 areas that are very, very important. For instance, recently I connected with a businessman from Assam. He actually owns the Rajasthani Royals, who's working on the Great Forest Project, which you may have heard of, which is essentially to take the forest that starts in Nepal, goes all the way to Myanmar and through Bangladesh and all the Northeast. And this is second only to the Amazon jungle in the world for taking carbon out of the air. But it's threatened. People could cut these trees down. It could exacerbate climate change. And if countries are looking to pay carbon credits, companies that pollute today in Europe or other places, why not pay, a place like Nagaland and then get capital for things like green infrastructure so that you can provide yourself with the power, the roads that you need to develop, but in an environmentally sensitive way. So to me, I'm a slow learner, but then I connect the pieces quickly. So when I come here, I do a lot of listening, and I think now you can see how some of those connections will be made. And if in my time as ambassador, I can help catalyze maybe 2 or 3 of these things that could change Naga, I will be a very happy man to come here. Yes, for Hornbill, 20 years from now with my grandchildren, because I want them to see the festival, but we'll also, go to real Nagaland, and I'll have some friends there. Hopefully we made an impact with.
We have us and develop green energy.
Yep.
So,
We-
things can be done.
Count on me to, as I said, I fall in love with Nagaland and its people, its culture, but more than that, its dreams. And in a short period of time, maybe for some, folks who live in Nagaland, it's frustrating. When will we get to where we want to go? But it's also breathtaking to see in such a short period of time the transformation. Sometimes it's an outsider's eyes that can see this, and I see a lot of hope, I see a lot of brilliance, and I see a lot of commitment. And we just want to match that with friendship. And the 4 Ps, as I call it: peace, prosperity, planet, and people. And they're all here. Whatever we can do to reinforce peace, whatever we can do to help spread prosperity, and whatever we can do to protect our planet. And the most important piece of that, like you said, whether it's through churches, whether it's through education, whether it's through sports, is the people to people.
Yes.
That's in the end of the day more strong than anything else. Well, first of all, I'll take the second question first. It's my belief, and I think the belief of the United States people, that when people are doing well, it's a safer world, it's a more beautiful world. I think many times people think that only we do things for strategic reasons. Like, what do you get out of it? And I was raised by parents and my own faith and everything else, that you do things because you see a person in need, and I don't care what their religion, culture, language is, they're human beings, that you're supposed to, where you can, help. And by the way, be humble, because they're going to teach you something and you're going to learn. They're going to help you too. So I would also challenge the Naga people, what can you do to help Americans and teach us? But I think that the specific work that we can do, we're open to anything. We heard, for instance, the success of a woman who takes these beautiful textiles made by Naga women and gets them into, Banana Republic, gets them into, what's the other place that she said, the other store? It was her first one. Anyway, it'll come to me. But I mean, top stores from Nagaland. So she's figured out the logistics. But she also said it's very difficult logistics to go from each village, collect these, deliver orders on time. And then when we were at the Bloom Bazaar, we heard the potential for flowers here. Because the season here is different than the season in other parts. So in Madhya Pradesh can't produce flowers, they're being produced here. And even that Indigo has promised to help fly them from here to Delhi. And from Delhi, the flower sellers can send them to the world. So part of it is not always physical infrastructure. It's clear. Need to be more, more roads and anything we can do to help. We have financing mechanisms that we can help if the Indian government would like to. We have experts who can help be engineers and other things for this. That's a part of it. But oftentimes it's just opening up the people-to-people connections. We buy and love flowers. I saw beautiful flowers tonight that I wish were in Los Angeles. So I know that they fly from Delhi around the world, and when I leave here, these are the sorts of things that I will follow up on and see what's the missing link. Why did that flower seller say it's frustrating, even though they have these gorgeous roses, these gorgeous other flowers. And then lastly, I think the other thing we can do is give skills. That's what our exchange programs are all about. When we can send people from Nagaland to the United States and they can take trips, and we cater those trips so that if they're in business, we'll introduce them to business people. If they're in education, we'll introduce them to educators. For instance, I talked to 2 women here who said, we have this mental health crisis in our schools. They were both teachers and educators. They said, we have, maybe one person who's a counselor in the school, but we as teachers need to have better training to be counselors too. We know the students, we know their parents, we know the family situation. And so we were thinking about what sort of access I can give them to potentially people in the United States who have trained teachers to be better mental health professionals. So some of it will be physical and business, and some of it may be, helping the social and spiritual and psychological needs of people. So I come here again, taking things away. It's more than just a show this week. I mean, I think it is real, genuine, and love. You've felt the hospitality. It didn't end last night. It kept going and going and going. And if I had one more rice beer, I think I wouldn't have been able to make it here today. But it was remarkable to see that moment, not just of how Nagaland presents itself to the world, but to itself. It's a moment you can feel the unity. And, sometimes it's when we have outsiders who come in that we become more unified ourselves.